everyone. Welcome to At Home with Sally. I'm Sally Clarkson, and I have the biggest privilege in the world to be with so many friends from all over the world who join me every week to listen to my stories, inspiration, biblical encouragement, and I am just so glad that you're here today. Thanks so much for joining me. Hello, my friends. How are you? How are you? I think about you so often. I really enjoy, one of my privileges is being able to do a podcast. I'm Sally Clarkson, and I just love being a part of a community of interesting, dynamic, committed, wonderful women and 10% men in this podcast arena. And I'm so glad you've joined me today. Wow, I don't know about you, but I feel like the past few weeks for me have been dramatic in the world events and my home events. I've had lots and lots of out-of-town company and so many things to do. I'm going to be releasing a book, and I'm also going to be releasing another book. It just happened, another 6 months from now. So life has been full, and I have Nathan and Keelia here, and I'm telling you, I literally did not have time today to put my brain into action, into gear, and to come up with a whole brand new podcast. I tried for 3 hours, but my brain went from this to that to this to that. Did your brain ever do that? So I thought I would at least tell you a little anecdote, and this may or may not be funny to you, but it was hysterically, sweetly funny to me because it was my grandson. My grandson is so cute. He's the only boy with 3 sisters. It's my daughter Sarah's children. And one of my friends was just at their house and then visited me here. And she said that as he was putting his little shirt on the other day, with Mama's help, he reached down his back and he started trying to pull at something, or he was scratching at something, and he looked up and he said, "Oh, no, Mama. I think this is going to be a really scratchy day." So anyway, I hope that you don't have a scratchy day. I hope you have a good day. I wanted to tell you about my podcast this week. I have a quote by Tozer that I just love. It's, let me give it for you. It's A.W. Tozer. And he said, "In almost everything that touches our everyday life on earth, almost everything, God is pleased when we're pleased. He wills that we be as free as birds to soar and to sing our Maker's praise without anxiety." And I just love that. He wills that we be as free as birds to soar and to sing our Maker's praise without anxiety. And I think because I was a little bit of an out-of-the-box child, and I asked a lot of questions, and I talked a lot, and at least I talked a lot in class when I wasn't supposed to. I had a rich inner world I dreamed things and wondered what I would do in the world. I always thought it would be something. I was an adventurer at heart, and yet still an introvert, kind of a mixed introvert-extrovert. And when I understood this message that the God who created the world, the God who created people and me, created birds to almost exemplify how he wanted us to be in life, to be able to fly, to be able to feel the wind on our face, to be able to enjoy the beauty that he has given. And so that's my thought I just want to start out with today, that maybe you can take with you from this podcast, that wherever you are, God does not want to weigh you down. God wants to lift you up. That's why he came, that we could have life and have it abundantly, that we could know love, that we could know freedom and forgiveness. And that actually, for me, it was important because I felt a little bit too much in my world, and in my family in some ways. And it was so nice to know he actually made me the way that I am, and he meant to make it that way to glorify him, and that he loved me with all of the thoughts and questions and dancing I wanted to do through life. I always said that God still loved my wild at heart. So anyway, think about that. Think about the fact that your children long for you to love exactly who they are. All right. Also, I have this picture. As it happens, birds became to me a symbol of all sorts of beauty and freedom and kind of a gift of the presence and the joy of God. And so I hide birds all over my house. I had little animals in my house when my children were little because I thought it would be fun for them to run upon one or discover it. And so in my house now, I have lots of birds sprinkled here and there. We might even go on bird hunts where we take a basket and try to fill it up with all the birds. But I have a picture here today of a beautiful bird, and his name is Daniel. And Daniel has stories to tell my grandchildren, especially when they sit with me with a cup of tea. And we sit in my little 2 chairs. We pull it up to a little tea table that I have and talk and talk and talk. And so I just wanted to show you that today. Now, I am going to share 2 friends with you that I had little chats with this week that I think you will just love. The first one is Jennifer Pepito, and she is a dear friend. She's a seasoned mama. She still has some children at home, and she has children who also went overseas to university, and she's just got the whole 9 yards. But she has so many wonderful thoughts about home and shaping home. I think you'll like our conversation today. It was encouraging to me. And then my second friend that I have a few minutes of is Lindsay Minma. And she has so much wisdom and richness to share, exactly ideas that I would share. So did Jennifer, but they both represent a lot of the same philosophy of life to me. And I think you're going to delight in Lindsay today. So enjoy, my friends. Pray for me. And I can't wait to pass on to you some more things that I've been thinking in my life. And very soon, I will be putting out a new book that I absolutely love. I just got in the mail the book, so I can't wait to see it. And also, I want to thank you. I have to do this every single time. Clay and I are always in the process of trying to put things back into print, to do new ideas, to hire staff to help us develop messages and websites and all over the world. And so if you've been encouraged by this ministry and by our podcasts and by the books that we've written or the conferences that we've hosted, we would appreciate it so much if you would support us at Whole Heart Ministries. And or we're looking for 200 more members to join. Our membership is so much fun. I have so many things to tell you about it at some point, but there are stories about artists and musicians, and there's hundreds of book recommendations. There's Bible studies that I give orally. There are recipes. All you have to do is join Life with Sally. And I know that you'll be encouraged. And when you do that, it is a way for you to support our ministry. We take checks to our ministry, which is wonderful. When you do that, it's just it feels so encouraging to us to keep going. And also, you can join lifewithsally.com. So, wanted to tell you that. I keep getting a few letters here and there about this. But I appreciate you. Let me pray for you, and then you'll get to have the rest of the podcast. Dear Lord, I know that there are so many different issues going on in the lives of people, just like in my life. Drama in the world, drama in our country, difficulties and challenges and joys, Lord, in our very different lives. But I do pray that my friends will just take a moment to ponder your beauty, and that you created birds as a metaphor of what you want our lives to be, that we can fly, that we can be free, that we can sing praises to you as all these little birds around my house do. But just that wherever we are in life, your desire is for us to have joy and to be blessed and to enjoy you. So help my friends to know this in a personal way this week, and bless my sweet friends Jennifer and Lindsay, for the encouragement that they gave us today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, my friends, enjoy. I wanted to tell you today that I decided to have one of my friends on that I value greatly because she is a woman of virtue, and she has been through all the seasons of life, and her name is Jennifer Pepito. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Sally. I just love you so much. I've been obviously a super fan for many years, and then been so grateful to get to know you in person through Wild and Free. It's been incredible.
Well, it's been so much fun. And then we have so many things in common, from a lot of philosophical ideals in common. And also, you've had a child who's lived overseas and studied and gotten their PhD in the UK. So there are just a whole bunch of issues that come with that. But anyway, tell us just a tiny bit about yourself. Where do you live now? How many children do you have? And so on.
Yeah, so I live in California. I kind of bounce between a Northern California town where there's more opportunities for my young adults and teens, and a mountain town where I love to visit my creeks and my rivers. And then I have 7 children. They're ages 30 to 15.
Wow.
One of the biggest, one of the biggest stories of my life is that we were missionaries in Mexico for 4 years. So we've, as a family, always had a heart for missions, and really been eager to be involved in whatever ways that we could in world missions. So that's been a big part of our family story.
That is so neat. So, and you're also a grandmother, is that correct?
Yes, I have 1 grandchild and 1 on the way, and I've homeschooled for 26 years. I think I'm pretty much done, which is heartbreaking because I do get help with high school years. So I have one 15-year-old who, I have him enrolled in an on-site math and geometry, like a biology class, a geometry class. I'm just so sad about not having young children to read the Little House on the Prairie stories to anymore. I'm going to homeschool myself. That's what I decided.
Oh, there you go. Me too. I am homeschooling myself. Well, I wanted to be sure to get to something today. I want to talk about your new book. Tell us the name of your new book.
Yeah. So my new book is called Habits for a Sacred Home. And I was so grateful, Sally, that you endorsed the book. It meant a lot to me to have a busy woman like you read it.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, we have had many conversations behind the scenes at Wild and Free. And so what does the word sacred mean to you for home? Because I think that it's possible that many people become confused by that term.
Yeah, I think that it can be a little bit intimidating. Like moms might think, oh my goodness, my kids are still potty training. My home's not sacred. Or we yell at each other at dinner about the dishes. My home's not sacred. But sacred really just means consecrated. Mm-hmm. And so for all of us, I think with an intention to have homes that are places of peace and connection, and for myself as a believer, a place of hope and faith, my home is consecrated. And so it therefore is a sacred home.
It holds you to a standard, doesn't it? If you consecrate your home to God, then it is a serious issue. And it holds you fast because you said, God, my home is your home forever, for the hard times, the easy times, forever. So
it's true. I actually kind of got like a little chill on that because we live in a culture where there are so many options. We have so many options as people about what we will do. And sometimes it is hard to think about, like, what is my duty as a human? But when we are consecrated people and we have consecrated homes, then it's a little bit easier to think about what is the best for my community or my family, instead of simply what I want to do right now.
Right. Well, I want to ask you just this question. If you look back on your life and on all the things that you've done through your home, you chose to home educate your children. You've also sent your children out into this wide, wide world. What would be one piece of advice or one piece of maybe focus that you would say is important for women to consider as they're young and going through all the years?
I think probably one of the biggest things is working through forgiveness constantly, because I feel like when we are holding on to little grudges, even just little resentments, then we get up in our heads and we seem really unhappy. And when we aren't happy, we're not attractive to our children. Like, we want to have these strong bonds with our children. We want to be connected. We want them to love our values and want to embrace our values. And yet when we're unhappy all the time, they can tend to find us a little bit repellent. And so learning how to just consistently forgive, and then because we have, lived in that kind of atmosphere of grace and forgiveness, I believe that we have more insight into what is important. Earlier in my life, I was probably holding on to some unforgiveness towards, the people who raised me, and some of the events that had happened in my life. And it caused me to be a lot more reactionary in my parenting and a lot more of a try hard. I was trying to impress people, or trying to have my house beautiful, or my garden beautiful to impress people. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I missed out on some really important moments of connection with my children. And thankfully, I've been able to repair that as they've grown into adulthood and the teen years. And I've been able to change some of those bad patterns that I had through, I think, forgiveness and then acceptance. Like, as I have forgiven myself and forgiven those around me, I am more able to receive love and therefore give love, and be more gracious, I think, with the people around me. But when we live in sort of like a competition or a sort of a reaction to things that have happened to us, mm-hmm. I think it makes our decision making a little bit shady.
Well, I think so. And I think that it's so important for us to understand as adults that we have the ability to apply self-control. In other words, I don't think that we should share everything with our children because they take it in as guilt. If they think that we're unhappy, they feel guilty, like it's their fault. I've noticed that a little bit over and over again. And I think, too, that as we're at one place in life, hopefully maturing, growing, learning, asking for forgiveness, sometimes our issues become a burden to them too much when they're little. And I think just to use decorum and to think, I wonder what we should do. Well, as you know, I would love to spend forever talking about this book, but tell us where you can be found, because you have so many wonderful things to say, and just tell us, about the name of your book and where that can be found.
Yeah. And I just love, Sally, that you mentioned decorum, because I think we live in a culture that really values emotions, and it is important to know how to process our emotions healthily, but they're not necessarily with our children. And so I love just that concept of, with our children, being sort of a rock that they can rely on instead of someone who's always up and down. And if you have to be up and down, do that with a therapist or a pastor or something. But if you go to habitsforasacredhome.com, there's access to the book as well as some other resources that kind of go along with it, like a book list. And obviously some of your books are on that book list. So.
Well, I just love your heart. I love what you do. My friend Jennifer is definitely a person you'll want to visit. And I hope that you have the most wonderful rest of your summer. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me, Sally. What an honor.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hello, my friends. I'm so happy to have you join me today. This is Sally Clarkson at Home with Sally, and I love being able to podcast. I am always reading and thinking and pondering all of the issues that are in my life and that might be in your lives. And so it's really fun for me to be able to do this. And I just want to thank all of you for the many letters and the messages, and I wish I could answer them. I sure wish I could endorse all the books that I get requests for. I wish I could do everything that you wish I could do. But more than anything, I'm really thankful that you're here and that you are patient with me in the midst of all of the dogs barking and the mailman coming. And we've just had a lot of fun in the past few podcasts. But today I'm really excited because I have a friend of mine, and I thought during this time of year when you're probably putting together some plans for the year for your children, and maybe even in home education, trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? I thought I would invite my friend Lindsay to be with us today and to tell you a little bit about ourselves. And we're going to have a conversation about what really matters when you are really choosing to influence, encourage, and inspire your children in this crazy world of home education. So, hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Sally. It's so great to be back here with you guys.
I know. It's so fun. We are kindred spirits who never see each other. But tell us everything. Tell us your name, where everybody can find you, how you came to this whole crazy area of home education.
Okay, so I'm Lindsay. I have 4 children. I have a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And we've been on this journey of home education since the beginning. I was educated in the public school system myself, but in my early 20s, I was a full-time nanny that turned into a home education opportunity for me. And so I was actually homeschooling before I was a parent, and I fell in love with this idea of adapting learning to the child and of chasing their interests and of reading really good books and doing everything outside. And so, of course, when I met my husband, I said, this is an absolute for me. I absolutely want to be a home educating parent. What do you think about that? And he just saw that I lit up too in that role. And so we just decided that that would be part of our path. And then I had the opportunity, as I was working with my own children and coming alive in that, I was also developing resources for my own children, gospel-centered discipleship resources, things that involve children with really great books and nature. And so as I was writing these resources for my own children, I thought, oh, it would be amazing if I could share these with the world. And so over the years, I've developed a team, and we have a full shop, and you can find me at treehouseschoolhouse.com.
Great. Well, I love your story. I love how you ended up there, but I think I'll tell a tiny bit about my story. I was living in Vienna, Austria with my husband, Clay. We were working at an international chapel that had about 40 different countries in it, a lot of people from the United Nations in Austria. And as we would have people over to our dinner table, we would have people after church, and we would have people from different countries, different political positions, and they were so interesting. An opera singer, somebody in the Philharmonic, and a refugee, just different people. And Clay and I both thought, oh my goodness, Clay has an MDiv. He's studied his theology, and I, at that point, could speak partially 4 languages because of all the places I'd lived, and I had finished my own education. But we both felt like we were uneducated. We honestly felt like we don't know literature, people, leaders, geography, historical places, other than a very small amount of things. And we both had admitted that we were kind of bored when we were in schools growing up. And then the third component is that we cared deeply that if God ever gave us any children, that we wanted them to know organically, to know His love, His relationship with us, His design, His just theology and faith and truth and virtue. And so we committed to homeschooling before I ever had my first child. Mm-hmm. It was one of those, we believed in it. And then now my children are, they're all published writers. They love the Lord. They love us. Sarah is a writer of many books and lives in Oxford with her husband. And they run a wonderful church there with their 4 children, very young children. And then Joel is a composer and a theologian and a writer, and he just finished his PhD in the UK. And then Nathan is a filmmaker and has written numerous books, and he's just produced a lot of art and music. He does a podcast called Overthinkers. And then we have Joy. I had her when I was almost 42, and I had 3 miscarriages, and one of my children prayed her into existence, and she finished her PhD a few years ago, and she's a professor. She teaches at King's College in London. And so the only reason I'm telling you that is it's amazing to me how my children are flourishing and how they are articulate and they're professional, and they care deeply about their faith, and they care deeply about other people. And what I want to say is it is so possible for all of you who are listening to really be able to see all of your, to see excellence and beauty and goodness and love flourish in your home. And Lindsay and I were talking earlier about the fact that now that homeschooling has become such a business, I feel like there are so many different things to buy, different curriculums to follow, different voices to hear. And I think that the more insecure or maybe untrained you are, there is a temptation to feel like if you just buy the right curriculum or if you just get the right whatever, it's going to make you successful. But what I found is that all four of my children had different personalities, different abilities, different times to mature. And I didn't have the time to do age-graded education for each of them. I was busy. I had 4 children. They wanted to eat and wear clothes. And anyway, all that to say, we came up with our own philosophy, have written a number of books, and the 2 educational books are Educating the Wholehearted Child, Reaching Their Hearts, and then the other one is Awaking Wonder. And we wanted to be able to share with people in this kind of arena, what does it look like to simplify and to focus and to invest in what matters? And so I'm going to ask you, Lindsay, for what you think really matters the most, and then I'll kind of give some of what I think are the foundations of how you really shape and prepare and nurture this little human being in your home to be able to go into the world and flourish in every possible way. So what have you found that's the most important?
I absolutely agree with you. I think that especially this time of year when all the pretty packages are out there and you've got influencers and bloggers and writers, and no hate to them because I'm one of them, but I just feel like it's so easy to look to the left and look to the right. And it's really important that we come back to what is success in our home. What does success mean in our children's lives? And that might look slightly different for every family, but it will help ground you. And so multiple times a year, I'll sit with the Lord, I'll sit with my husband and say, wait, what is the goal here? You know, what is the main goal? And then even ask Holy Spirit to show us for each child, is there one main thing you're wanting us to hone in on this year? And sometimes it might surprise you what you hear. But for me, I feel like similarly to you, I want connection in my family. I often ask myself, what do I want our home education, our home life, our home culture to actually feel like? Mm-hmm. What do I want them to remember as the main feelings in their childhood? And I'll tell you, it doesn't have a lot to do with which curriculum I choose. It has a lot to do with those connection moments, those moments where we're just taking a life situation and we're making it a lesson. When we're at the grocery store, when we're reaching out to a neighbor, and that is not something in a curriculum. Character training is not something you're going to find in the curriculum, but what it requires of us is having margin and being available to our children as much as we possibly can, and living a slow enough life that we can pay attention to those moments. For me, in the homeschool world, what really matters to us is seeing God through everything. So if we're studying history, if we're studying science, if we're on a nature walk, pointing to God in all things, and really, really good books. I feel like you can go a really long way with a really great stack of books and good conversation. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the other stuff just can fall to the wayside. And I think we get stuck sometimes when we're just trying to check off the list, or we're just trying to finish the workbook, and we're missing the main point. And the main point is relationship with God, relationship with us, and for them to delight in wonder and beauty, in art and poetry, to think deeply, to chase down interest, and to learn to love learning as a whole and learn how to learn. And so these things aren't something that you can open up a curriculum and say, okay, we did learn how to learn today. They're a lifestyle. They're bringing your children into your life. What makes your heart beat? What makes your family, your family's culture strong, and leaning into those things. And so you can't copy paste from someone else's homeschool, even from yours. Now, I will say I'll take a lot from yours, and people can take a lot from mine, but you don't want to copy paste, because that's not being led by the Spirit. That's not following your own children's interests and needs and emotions. And so that's the beautiful and hard thing, is that everybody's homeschool needs to look different, uniquely theirs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will agree with you. You just said it all, so why do I need to say anything?
I want to know what yours look like, Sally.
Well, that they can read the books, Awakening Wonder and Educating the Wholehearted Child.
Absolutely. They're wonderful books.
I'm teasing. I oftentimes, even after I've written those books, I'll think of new things that I want to say. And one of the things that I've realized in the past few years is that, to me, one of the most important components as I look in the heart and lives of my own children is that I studied and pondered the life of Christ. And he used his whole life to be a mentor. In other words, he lived with his disciples morning, noon, and night. He taught them, he trained them, he gave them responsibilities. And so I realized that Jesus said that the student will be like his teacher. Mm-hmm. And I realized that when you take responsibility for another person's well-being, I think that when I first held Sarah, my first child, in my hands, it was almost as though the Lord said, this child will have eternal implications by what she believes, by what she does, by the legacy she believes that her life is supposed to live. How will you so shape her? How will you so love her that she'll believe in my love? How will you so train her so that she will be a virtuous woman in a chaotic world? How will you get the picture. And so one of the things I really want to emphasize is that you as a person, and I felt like I became more educated when I took responsibility for my children's education.
Absolutely.
I learned so much about science and nature. I learned so much about people in history and great eras and artists and musicians and so on, because I took responsibility to teach them those things. But I think that every person who wants to be an educator in a really productive way needs to be growing themselves. They need to be growing intellectually, growing spiritually. They need to be growing in character and self-discipline. And as I look back, I realize that even now, my children come to me all the time and ask me deep questions and share what they're reading, thinking, working, doing. And they have learned to come to Clay and me because they expect us still to be in a mentoring relationship with them. We learn from them, they learn from us. But I do think that more important than what you're using to read to your children, to train your children, whatever, is that you perceive yourself as a mentor, as Jesus was to his disciples, that you are shaping the conscience of a little one, that you are exposing them to thoughts and ideas. I love what you said, Lindsay, about conversation, because Clay and I were talking a few years ago, Clay being my husband, and we decided that probably one of the most important things we ever did for developing our children's academic strength or prowess is that I wrote a book called The Life-Giving Table, and we had our children eat every night. We decided if you're going to have 18 years, thousands and thousands and thousands of meals together, why not use it? So we used our table for discussion, for talking, for asking questions, for reading some books out loud, for watching movies and then discussing them at the table. And really, it was, again, that mentoring thing where we would ask questions to give them a chance to develop their mental muscles. So I would say everything Lindsay said, but also then perceiving yourself as a mentor, as somebody, if you want them to have excellence, then you need to be excellent in your life. If you want them to be interested in reading, then you need to be reading and saying, I read the most fascinating thing today. What do you think about it? If you want them to be amazed at God and his reality in the world, then when the sun is setting, you need to say, oh my goodness, that's the most beautiful combination of colors I've ever seen. I wonder what mood God was in when he created this, because he designed those colors for us to enjoy. And so it's a hands-on, requires everything from you. It's like the Velveteen Rabbit. You'll be old and great when it's all over. But it is a combination of what we've both just told you right now. So does anything else come to your mind, Lindsay? Because you said so much, and we have a limited time that we get to talk on this today. But what else comes to your mind?
Well, I just want to...
What has been different than you thought it would be?
Oh goodness, so many things. I think for me, what's been different is I had this idea that it would look like school at our house, but I realized that it's actually all of our lives. And I love what you said, because I've been recently on this journey. I've been swimming in diapers and children and sickness and moving and building a house. And I know you know your share about chaotic life.
Right.
But I've been swimming in that. So I'm just emerging where, I'm getting to this point where I'm developing myself as a person, and I'm realizing I'm constantly thinking about my children's social life and their health and their spiritual walk and their academics. But I'm a whole person as well that God created, and I deserve delight and beauty and wonder and intelligence and all of these things. And so rather than picking up my phone and scrolling while I'm stirring dinner, I'm trying to be reading a book. I'm trying to be having great conversations with friends. I'm trying to cultivate a core group that I can really be intimate with. I'm trying to get up early and have my morning walk and listen to sermons, because it's a fight. Sometimes it feels like a chore, but then at the end of the day, you feel like you're filled up. And then it just pours out of you that you do have those conversations, and you're not striving, what am I going to talk to my kids about at dinner tonight?
Right.
It's coming out of this overflow that the Holy Spirit's like poured into you, and then you can pour out. And it's this continual experience of Him pouring into you, you pouring out, and then being inspired and enlightened. And you didn't have to follow a curriculum for that. That was life. And so,
and it doesn't mean that you don't have excellent books. You have excellent books that you're reading, and you're copying wise women, and you're following your interests and your children's interests. But those are merely a springboard for trying to give them a love for learning all about it and for thinking about it. What did you think? Which hero, which was the real hero? Do you think that you would be tempted by the same things they were tempted by, or, just whatever? But, well, I just really love who you are. I love what you do. Tell people where they might find you.
You can find me at treehouseschoolhouse.com, or you can also find me on Instagram at treehouse_schoolhouse.
Oh, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And you can find me, for those who are new to this, at this podcast all the time, at Home with Sally. And also at sallyclarkson.com is where I have everything. And there's a whole bunch of books that you can find too. But anyway, I love having you today. You are so poignant. I'm glad you're not quitting just to become an expert in homeschooling, because you could very well do that. But I love the idea that your children are getting your whole heart. That is just absolutely beautiful. So,
thanks, Sally.
Thank you so much for being with me today, and have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. I hope you've enjoyed our time together today, and that you'll join me next week. Be sure to look for more inspiration on my blog at sallyclarkson.com. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.